Today I'm going to show you a foolproof coffee old-fashioned recipe that you can use to experiment with making your own coffee old-fashions, and we'll also make one together. Over the next 3 videos, I'm going to show you 3 completely different riffs on this amazing drink, each of which with completely different flavour profiles and completely different ways of introducing coffee to the drink. The coffee old-fashioned is delicious, it's easy and it's flexible. And now, let's make some coffee cocktails. Alright, welcome back to the Coffee Cocktail channel everyone. I'm Dan Fellows, and today we're going to be making the coffee old-fashioned, which is a delicious drink and one of my favourites in the world. But before we do that, if you're into coffee, if you're into cocktails, and if you're into bringing the two together in kind of interesting, creative ways, it'd be awesome if you could subscribe to the channel. You can also follow me on Instagram at danfellows1, and I've just launched a Patreon, which is a really good way to support the channel, giving you early access to content and kind of what you'll need for the videos, as well as behind the scenes access and influence in the content on the channel. So if you want to sign up to that, it would be much appreciated, and it really does help support the channel. But even if you just subscribe, or even if you just like this video, if you enjoy it, all of this is extremely valuable. So all of that will be linked below. But now, let's make a coffee old-fashioned. So the base template that I pretty much base all my coffee old-fashions around is actually really simple. It's 60 ml of our base spirit, 5 to 15 ml of our sweetener, 3 dashes of our bitters, up to 0.5 grams of saline solution, and then some kind of aromatic garnish, which is going to kind of complement the drink and elevate it even further. And in one of those processes, we're going to introduce coffee to the old-fashioned, but over the next 3 videos, including this one, we're going to show you 3 completely different ways of introducing coffee, which are quite innovative and creative and give very different results. So stay tuned for the other videos. But now, we're going to build a coffee old-fashioned, which is kind of classic in terms of its flavor profile. We've got toffee apple, we've got dark chocolate, and we've got a kind of orange aroma. So everything you want from a coffee old-fashioned. And for this, we're going to need a few things. So first of all, we're going to go with some kind of bourbon whiskey. I'm going with Buffalo Trace for its kind of caramel, toffee notes with that really kind of thick texture. And when it comes to the spirit, you could stop there, but I'm actually going to blend this. So I'm also going to go with a kind of fruit-forward whiskey, something like a Glenfiddich 12, with those kind of apple, pear, butterscotch, vanilla notes. And these two complement each other really nicely and also tie into the coffee that we're going to be using. So whenever I build drinks, I always take a kind of flavor-forward approach. And although I kind of respect tradition, I'm not bound by it too heavily. So with an old-fashioned, obviously, historically, this would be either rye or bourbon. And we're going to use some bourbon in this drink, but also some Scotch whiskey. You can use whiskies from all over the world, which have a huge spectrum of different flavor profiles, but you can also use completely different spirits altogether. So we're going to focus on that in the future, but for now, these 2 are going to be our kind of base for this particular old-fashioned. So when it comes to the coffee, we're going to introduce this using coffee saccharum syrup, which is made with a very fruit-forward coffee. So I'll talk about this throughout the video and also link how to make it at the end. You can also use commercial coffee liqueur for this, or even non-coffee liqueurs or syrups for different flavor profiles. We're going to need some seasonings for our old-fashioned. Historically, this would be bitters, so we're going aromatic bitters, but I'm also going with a 1 part salt to 5 parts water saline solution, which you can make really easily at home. And then finally, to garnish the drink, we're going to use an orange for those kind of zesty aromas. So all of these bottles, all of these tools are going to be linked in the description below. So if you want to pick them up, you can make the drink exactly as we are doing today, but you can be really flexible with this, so you don't have to have exactly the right things, but these will really help get you to a really good place. So in the mixing glass, we want to go with 60 ml of our spirit, which we're breaking into 2. So I'm going to go 30 ml each of Buffalo Trace, which has those kind of high body notes, toffee, caramel, butterscotch. You could stay here and just use kind of 1 base spirit, using 60 ml of this, but I actually want to kind of bring down the texture a little bit, because if you have that really thick texture, it can kind of overpower the coffee, whereas I want the coffee to come through as kind of the hero of the show. So I'm blending this with 30 ml of Glenfiddich 12. But with these whiskies, you can substitute them out for other kind of whiskies with those characteristics. You can change them up. The idea of this recipe is it's completely flexible, and you can build a drink around the spirits you love, the coffee you love. You can blend things together. You can use different sweeteners, you can use different bitters, you can use different sources of salt, you can use smoked salt, whatever. As long as you use this kind of base template, you should be in a really good place. So 30 ml of each of our whiskies. We're going to go 10 ml of coffee saccharum syrup. And this is the sweetener of the drink, whilst also introducing our delicious coffee note. So if you don't know what coffee saccharum is, this is the syrup version. And this is made with equal parts spent coffee, light muscovado sugar, and a spirit, which is actually vodka in this case, because I want to keep it kind of really kind of neutral. And the coffee in this comes from a really amazing company called Send Coffee. So this isn't a sponsored video, they just do amazing things. Essentially, they're training people with special educational needs and disabilities, hence the name, SEND, Special Educational Needs and Disabilities, and really doing this with a view to give people opportunities in the barista market, in the kind of coffee industry. So if you haven't checked them out, you can do this. That'll be an amazing thing to do. And this coffee is a Rwandan coffee. It's full of kind of dried fruit notes, some kind of cherry and pomegranate in there as well. It's an anaerobic process, so really kind of high, sweet, kind of fruit-forward characteristics. And making a coffee saccharum syrup from this brings those really nice kind of red fruit characteristics, which tie in with the whiskey and the other ingredients really nicely. So I've gone with 10 mils of the coffee saccharum, which is our sweetening element, but obviously this brings a lot of coffee flavor. But you can increase or decrease this based on your kind of flavor preferences or your preferences towards how much coffee intensity you want in the drink. So this is a pretty light roast coffee. If you're using a dark roast, I wouldn't add any bitters, but because this is light and fruity, we're gonna go with our 3 dashes. And then we're just gonna season the drink with a little bit of saline solution. So the key to seasoning cocktails appropriately is to bring the salt to a level where it's imperceptible, but any higher and you taste salt, and then any less and it doesn't really have the full effect. So you can always add a little bit less than you think, but having tested this drink quite a lot, I know we need about 0.5 grams, and that's just about perfect. And it just elevates the drink. You don't taste salt, but it's just a really delicious addition. And then we need to give this a really good stir down with lots of ice. So you want to add plenty of ice to your coffee old fashioned. And as you can tell, this is freshly out of the freezer. You don't want to use the ice that's already started to melt because you'll not be able to control the dilution very effectively. And you just want to kind of stir it as confidently as you can, just getting the drink nice and cold. And the whole point of stirring the drink down with ice is threefold. First of which, you want to mix the ingredients together, which this does really well. We also want to add an element of dilution. And obviously we want to chill the drink. So mix, chill, and dilute. And I'm not actually going to stir this drink as long as I would something like a martini, which is served straight up, because we're going to serve this over ice, which will add another kind of element of dilution. And now I'm just going to strain this into a frozen glass over clear ice. And it's quite a striking looking drink. We're going to garnish with a little zest of orange, just expressed over the drink, to give it that really nice kind of aroma, which complements the kind of caramel, chocolate, apple notes in there. And there we have the coffee old fashioned. Cheers. It's just such a banger. It's like everything you want in a drink. You've got the whiskey there, you've got the coffee there, you've got the citrus there, you've got the bitterness there. You've got all the kind of characteristics of the coffee really coming through, complemented by the whiskeys we've chosen and also the bitters. We've got the really kind of rich caramel coming from the bourbon. We've got the really nice kind of appley fruit notes coming from the Glenfiddich 12. Both of these are found in the coffee. And then we've got that kind of red fruit pomegranate thing going on from the coffee saccharum. Citrus zest on the nose, dark chocolate. It's super complex, super delicious, really easy. So to recap the recipe, we've got 60 mils of our spirit, based on 2 different spirits, so 30 mils each of a bourbon with those kind of caramel toffee notes and a scotch with those kind of fruit forward notes. We've got 10 mils of coffee saccharum syrup, which is made with equal parts spent coffee grounds, muscovado sugar and vodka. We've got 3 dashes of our aromatic bitters, 0.5 grams of our saline solution, stirred down over ice, served in a frozen glass with clear ice. And if you want to learn how to make clear ice, I will put the video just here. And there we have the delicious coffee old fashioned. So this is a really delicious and kind of foolproof template you can use to build all sorts of different coffee old fashions. And in the next 2 weeks, we're going to make 2 completely different coffee old fashions. So in the meantime, let me know which coffee old fashions you make in the comments. You can also connect with me on Instagram at danfellows1. You can join me on Patreon, which I'll link in the description below. And you can also subscribe to the channel, which you can do here in order to not miss those next videos. So in the meantime, if you want to learn how to make the coffee saccharum syrup, I'll put that video just here. And then when it's ready, which might be now, might be in the future, I'll put the second coffee old fashioned we're going to make, which is a delicious floral coffee old fashioned. Completely different to this, and that's going to go just down here. So stay tuned, enjoy some coffee old fashions, and thank you very much for being here. I'll see you soon. Cheers.